Okay. All right. So let me see if I can focus this in on Jane. Actually, maybe what I'll do is get a little closer.
We can have a bunch of show and tell and stuff. So,
Okay. Oh,
so nice to see you all in person. I had a lot to pack because this has been a topic of my sewing life and embellishment for quite a while, including the dog, because my husband's out all day and he was going to be in the car, and Michelle said, well, I think you can bring the dog in. So this is Bingley. And actually he could be part of needle felt. That's part of the joke. He sheds like hell. And so I remembered so many things, and I forgot as I reached for my mask, my hearing aids. So I can hear me, you can hear me. I don't know what the hell you're saying. So if I ask you to repeat yourself, I'm so sorry. I apologize. Getting old, what a challenge. But I didn't get old enough to give up my idea of embellishment. So years ago, this is so long ago that I remember we were in the winter retreat in Winchester at the camp in the basement room that stunk to hell. And I had seen a boiled wool jacket in ready to wear where they had embellished yarn. They had put yarn on to the lapels and the sleeve. And so I said, wow, that's cool because you can pick the colors that are good for you. And I'm so fair that a wool coat in black, I look even more funereal. So I got started with that. I made a boiled wool jacket. I did some embellishment. It looked like crap. And I hardly ever wore it. And I think I still had it until I moved a year and a half ago. And I think it became potholders. But I evaluated what I did. And so what I did was I went and I started with what was available at the time. And I think this might be so long ago that Carol Duvall was still on HGTV doing little crafty things.
I loved her.
I know, remember her? What happened to her? So I went and bought from Clover these little needle felting tools. And so I started with hand felting, and I started with yarn. And all you did was use either a foam pad or, in this case, this base that you could also buy. And you started with yarn on your fabric, and then I graduated to buying roving at the Woolen Sheep Festival. And I'm not a knitter, but I love yarn and such because of the colors. So I started, he'll be fine, and started making shapes. So what I did was take the felt and pound it down, and you bought little molds and made flower shapes. And it's a little slow, but it was pretty because you can blend the colors. And that's what I love about this, is your ability to customize. It's very Monet-like. It's nothing. Those of you who have a more engineering brain, this will drive you nuts. I have friends like that who say, well, what's going to happen? I don't know. And I don't care. So let me do one show and tell. So several of you have seen Ribbons Every Spring. So I embellished this ready-to-wear sweater, and I had lots of pink and rose and peach fabrics, but as I pass it around, you'll see that there are some of those felted flowers on here. So this is ancient. This is so old that it's the second sweater. The first sweater got pilly, and so what this is, it was all put onto t-shirt fabric as a collar, so I could find a similar color sweater, not perfect, and I had to go add some different fabrics that match. So that was the first thing. That was needle felting. And so now I'm watching felting and such, and I realize this is kind of slow, and I'm gonna take up wet felting, because I had to buy this roving for this, so I'm gonna take up wet felting. And I took classes, I didn't even bring the scarves, they're gone. I took classes, so wet felting is where you take the wool roving, this is roving, and you put it on either a base, a thin silk scarf, a piece of netting. You could do it on a thin linen, but you do a base fabric, you then pull and layer this. I took class twice. It is slow and tedious. And
Just little tiny.
little pieces, and then you want to crisscross them so that when you pour water on it and you rub it and you take a pool noodle and roll it for an hour. Some people use sanders. I was even thinking about like using roll it with your feet while you're watching TV. And mine looked totally amateur. Totally amateur. And so I discovered that I did do one nice one at the Woolen Sheep Festival in Howard County in Maryland, which is a huge festival every day. There was a woman who simplified it a little bit. So you didn't have to layer all of that. You didn't have to create every bit of fabric. You bought, and this is the only color she had. So I was a little disappointed when I signed up for the class. Like, really? But she provided, this is called a wool bat. And it's exceedingly expensive. You can buy them on eBay. It's very expensive. I'll pass that around. It's lovely, lightweight. And then she had a whole lot of roving, and you could just do whatever. So I'm very happy. So I did this scarf. It's still the wet felting. So but the base was there. So then I just got to go pull roving and then wind it up. Love it forever. But I'm very happy how this turned out, but I wasn't willing to invest in different colors of wool bats. Billy, here, thank you. Those of you on Zoom, y'all get my feet, I know. So I'm really happy how this turned out, but it was my one and only, because it is pricey to do.
And how long did it take to?
Oh, the class was an all-day class. So
But you were done at the end?
you
of
were
the day?
done
Okay.
at the end. So I took home a scarf and just laid it flat then to dry. And I do love it. It's remarkably soft. I'm not a wool, I guess I'm not a knitter. I think it might be mohair, but don't quote me. Or cashmere, it might be cashmere because it's very light, the maroon bat. And that's why it's pricey. It's wonderfully light and it's wonderfully soft. One of the things about that roving is if you're going to make a scarf, you want the base to be soft around your skin. As I get older, I'm fine with wool, but I definitely want it softer. So then I said, well, I'm just going to buy them. So I did, and I have been. I'm going to give you a couple of sources if this interests you. I bought this at the, it's now back in person, the ACC show in Baltimore. American Craft Council is a juried show. They have a bunch of people who do felting. But as I pass it around, you're going to see this is on a silk scarf. So that's what this is. So it's a very thin, and there's different layers when you look at tie silks and such for crafting. There's like, this is almost like a silk scrim, but it's a support. And then they just layered those colors. And again, I'm trying to always break up black. So the cream and the tans and such are more in my, my wardrobe. What's wonderful is they're wonderfully worn and soft. If you have, like I said, the patience, and I still have an unused kit, this is done with just entirely roving. built up.
Oh.
So you have to have a space longer than that to place your roving on, that you can get wet. That's the other part. This isn't a sewing room project, unless you put down, shower curtain on the floor. And people do very creative things. But you're gonna lay all that roving out in layers, and then there's a technique for wet felting this to make it ripple. This one doesn't ripple a huge amount. It has some I have that ripple more. But where to find these? Etsy. Oh my gosh, Etsy. And felting is huge in Europe. So I think one of these came from somebody in the British Isles, I don't remember, England, Scotland. And then this one is on a base. Again, you'll see when you pass it around, it's on a really thin netted. But has been wet felted. And this one came from, and there are a lot of artisans in the Ukraine, in Georgia, and Russia. But this came from Georgia. And I mean, it's embarrassing how little these cost from somebody on Etsy, especially particularly in a foreign country, or somebody who has made so many and they just want to sell them and such.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
This has a pattern here, but it has a pattern here. Is that just the reverse of that? Or do you
No,
have to
it's
do it
because
twice?
they probably did it 2 layers. And so you're thinking underneath
Yeah.
and all, yeah, so actually the amount of, they probably laid the white, those are, that's probably silk pieces. They probably laid that silk down first, then the turquoise and black very thickly, and then the silk again, so that there's a sandwich of 3.
So you don't have to flip it over and go through all that again.
Right, no, it's thick, but it'll take forever to lay that roving down. I mean, when you start watching people, they speed up their YouTubes on doing the wet felting, because you want to watch somebody for hours lay down pieces. So I said, okay, that's nice. I will help artisans and give up the wet felting. But that embellishment thing really still haunted me. So I went back to that and did a couple of other things. So this, you've seen me wear also, similar thing. In this case, I just took, I used the t-shirt jersey just to stabilize my ready to wear sweater a little bit. But I started doing some needle felting onto fabric. And that's what these pieces are. I took silk to peony and silk, this is satin, silk. And I just started needle felting. And I like, again, I had to have colors and such, and then I stitched. So I like the impressionist of this. I like blending. Those of you who quilt, there are a lot of people who use this technique for embellishing onto a quilt. That, and people do, landscape art or, art quilts and art pictures by just felting flat with that roving. And you can do this technique with that needle felting tool by hand. But by then, several companies came out with needle felting machines that were a lot faster. So I bought, my first machine was a simplicity machine, it was a 5 needle simplicity machine. And I did this with that machine. But we all know once you go down the machine roll, It's like, then you like look up the YouTube and somebody else has a different machine and somebody else has a different machine. So I discovered that I really liked using it. I liked blending the fabrics, the colors and such. And I started playing more with the idea. This is a project that I have not done yet, but Michelle mentioned it 6, 10, 8 years ago. Like it's just those things stay in your head, about seeing in ready to wear where somebody had felted between the fabric, a wool fabric, the roving, and then a piece of leather. And I still haven't done it, but I had fun playing. So there's just a wool knit, some of the roving torn off again, and a piece of leather done under my now 12 needle machine. Because why not? Let's have bigger, better and such. And I adore that look. I just haven't made the garment yet, but in my head, it's there. I have a wonderful piece of purple wool, and last winter, I was finally going to tackle this coat project. So I had purple leather that totally coordinated, and the coat I'm going to make has a big shawl collar. And I thought, oh, I'm gonna have the leather on the side and the big shawl in wool, and I'm going to embellish it. And these, I just went, I hate it. It was taking it from classy to, okay, now you're pushing the folky art teacher look. Walk away from the embellisher. So that was the closest I came. But when I pass these around, what's so cool is, so here's the front where you can see the three, the wool, the roving, and the leather. And on the back, you see what comes through is even more impressionistic. So it's interesting to look at it in so many directions. So let me pass those in.
Oh, wait, I'm supposed
Can
to
I-
show, I'm supposed to go like this across the camera. How's that?
When you sew leather, there's a problem with perforating it too much, and the leather will then tear away. You're not having any issues with that?
No, did you feel anything?
I did, and I just,
No, absolutely not. And that's what Michelle, that's what I said. I had that same preconceived notion. Oh, this will perforate the leather, this won't be good. Doesn't, and that's with 12 needles. hitting
yeah,
that.
I can believe this is all.
I know it's all, and that to me is what the secret is. A sewing machine would do that. A sewing machine is punching a hole and putting thread through and creating basically a serrated, like a piece of notepaper. The embellishing machine is taking and blending fibers together.
Yeah.
That's why it comes back on the other side. That's why I say look at the other side. So you are making fabric is what's so cool. You're making new fabric. Like really, I needed to make.
I have the
new
old
fabric.
simplicity.
I know.
Oh my gosh,
So not every idea works.
64.
I don't usually wear cool clothing. I wear polar fleece. I wake up and I'm like, what am I going to put on to take the dog out? And 5 o'clock comes and I'm making dinner and I really haven't even changed from that. So that's just my life, particularly in the last 3 years. So I thought, well, okay, I've made some cooler, little sweatshirt look things out of polar fleece. So I'll go ahead and I'll embellish the polar fleece. So it'll be a little bit sharper and a little bit cooler. This is where total failure in my mind. So I just made one of the sweatshirts, one of the grasser sweatshirt, kind of cool sweatshirt, a little angled and everything and lines. And this is the right side of the fabric, but I make the cuffs and the cowl because they're going to be the thing closest to my neck and feeling. So I reverse it and I use the soft side. The soft side is actually the interior of a polar tech. And this is a power stretch. Well, I went to embellish it. It puckers up. It looks, again, it looks funky. It looks homemade. I hated it. So I had that idea in my head for months, like, oh, this will be so cool. So here's some others. I had this, look at this yarn. I have this yarn that I have a scarf shawl out of. I'm like, oh, this will be perfect on here. I tried circles. It puckers. The needle marks show on the right side. Abject failure. Look at the difference between how, I think that this just looks like amateur land, and the wool piece with the leather
I love
looks
that.
sophisticated.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
that was the lesson of go with that look. So the other cool thing, and on the sheet I handed you, there's a whole bunch of YouTube. So I love it when you all can do a PowerPoint, Michelle's spring, PowerPoint. I retired before any of that.
Me
I had
too.
an administrative assistant. She's gone on to bigger and better things in the world. I don't know how to do it. I'm not going to learn too late. So there's the best I could do. Go to the internet, go on YouTube, and here are a bunch of people who are doing things, including, interestingly, I had never seen it until I put this presentation together. I've never seen Angela Wolf had done this. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Angela, so this is, remember I said that pink sweater. I had done some things on Dupioni, and in this case, it's on, help me, it just went blank. Silk organza, but there's roving here. And on those very thin fabrics like organza and Dupioni, it pulls the fabric up. You can see it actually shapes it. And so what's interesting is, you think about when you go into Fabric Basement or New York or something, and you see all these embellished fabrics, suddenly it's like, well, they have puckers and it's like, oh, they just did something like this. And that's exactly what she did. So I'm going to pull out, I thought I had it.
So you don't hoop any of it.
Yeah.
No, you don't need it, no.
So the others, so then I decided, okay, this was my winter project last year that didn't get finished.
Yeah.
You can see lots of samples for this. So I had done back when I was blogging, so that's pre-COVID, I did a blog post about, I think my last blog post was bucket list fabrics. And I picked 20 fabrics that in the next 5 years I have to sew. I don't have to even wear them. I just have to sew them. Because they're so special. Like, wouldn't it be awful, to die and not have sewn?
Or at least
And
made a
then
water
COVID
out
hit, I'm
of
like,
it.
crap,
At least made a water out of it, right?
I am gonna die and
I haven't sewn them.
No, but see, that's how you can die.
I
You
know.
love God.
Oh, that's funny.
So one of them was this, I had this amazing trip 5 years ago to England, and I met some online sewing friends, at the Great British Sewing Bee Expo. Oh my God. And I have to say, I do love wool, I love fabric, but when you're in England, you can't get anything like that here. I don't care where you shop, you can't get it. And this was somebody at the expo. And I'm like, so imagine what's in a store. So somebody came to the expo, and we've been a week hiking out in Cornwall, fields and blue skies and green and such. So I saw this fabric and died. And so it's a wool double knit. And I have 2 or 3 other
Oh, I see.
just amazing, amazing pieces. I'm like, what am I gonna do with it? I love the fact you can see both sides. I love the fact, again, that it breaks the black up with things that blue or the green, which are better for my coloring. So I bought several yards. I think I bought it, I think I had to ship it home. I was like, Steve's like, really? I said, I know, I just bought so much. Anyway, or should you ship it?
Yeah.
We just got back several weeks ago. I bought a separate suitcase and no problem, filled a whole suitcase full of fabric. So here's the sample. And I wanted to do some kind of embellishment. Again, just because I have the machine, I could have made the coat perfectly without it. The coat pattern fits, I made it several times. But then I got to play with all of these samples and all of this yarn. Because like I said, I go to the Sheep and Wool Festival, I just buy, and I buy it cheaply, I'm not gonna buy expensive, I'm never gonna admit it. But look at all these yarn colors. So, I mean, I just spent forever,
I could have given
you know, with the needle felter. So here are samples for needle felting different yarns on the edge. And, you know, was I going to do something on the collar? Was I going to do the pocket? So you'll see all my samples. You'll see I did the, I've never done it before, the seam technique of the single layer where you cut the seam allowance off and lap it and stitch it. Woo, was that hard to do? This is once in a lifetime, this is bucket list fabric. Oh. So I did it on every seam except the side seams because I did just top stitch those. And so here's my finished coat. Oh, wow.
So what pattern is that?
This is a Vogue pattern from, I made it in that red, you guys saw me, that red polar fleece, polar check. I've made it I made it years ago in Winchester woolen in a double knit. Sarah helped me fit it. It has all these panels. I had to adjust every friggin' panel. First one I made it in a plaid. I had to lay it out and line everything.
Is it a raglan or is
It's
it?
a rag, well, it's a raglan and it didn't have this seam, the original pattern, and we put this in, Sarah and I was gonna do a belt with it, and then I did it and I hated it. But I love it for this kind of weather for the next 2 months. This is exactly what I need. Pockets, so I'll pass the whole thing around. But I just ended up embellishing the edges.
Is this that?
So-
Is this one you just finished?
I just,
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
this
I can
is the
see
pink
that.
one, which
Oh,
I
okay.
had failure this week.
Okay.
That's
why I
bad.
had to go hide. But I'm really happy. I'm really thrilled. I love the fact that it's bucketless fabric. I love the fact that I use the embellisher because I like that again. I'm not saying it wouldn't be nice, but having embellished it, it makes it feel like me. I don't know how else to say it. If I had just sewn it up as fabric, it would have just been a coat that I could have bought. And well, I mean, but really, it would have been, and so now it will, now it is. Exactly. Exactly, that's what I'm saying, is I could have bought it somewhere expensive, but now it feels like me, and I like that. You know, it's perfect for dog walking. Look at that, big pockets. You know.
The bottom is not him.
It's raw edge.
It's raw edge,
Yeah.
it's raw edge, because it's a double knit,
Right.
so it doesn't ravel,
Right.
the bottom is not hemmed. I was even going to, I will say the one thing I don't like, and I couldn't fix it, and okay, you know, you're not supposed to say this. You remember years ago when I was at ASG and at the luncheon, the national conference in Birmingham, and Gail Gibson, anyway, did a fitting book at California. She said, who's wearing something we made? You know, the ASG National Convention, 80% of the room raises their hand. you will repeat after me. I will not tell anyone at my lunch table what I didn't do right.
Exactly.
I get one more name. I took classes from her too. Yeah,
Yeah.
in Birmingham. I
Yeah,
was there.
Birmingham,
But I was in
Birmingham,
I was a
Rebecca.
Colorado president, yeah.
Birmingham, yes.
The
exactly.
elevator breaking down. Yes.
Oh, yeah, we have a pin there.
Oh, in the arm.
Oh, that would be fun. Oh, I still, so, but I'm gonna tell you what I don't like is, and I couldn't fix it. The double knit, unlike that single knit, the double knit, when I did it, it does pull up. It doesn't, I can't get that curve out of there, you're pressing.
You can't see it.
Well, I can see it.
Oh, stop.
Oh, please.
Wow.
Oh, please, I can't see it.
But it's just a warning to myself, oh, don't do an edge of a double knit ever again. Oh, okay. Come up with another solution.
How do you care for that?
Oh, no, that was just talking. And I barely, I mean, I'm, oh, yes, yes. They're everywhere. They're usually on the floor. Luckily, they leave it by So the other, now for a practical use, I'm not trying to convince you to buy an embellishment.
Oh, come on.
But,
Like me.
so again, I like soft things against myself. I make a lot of tank tops to layer, and I want to be warm. I'm cold from now on. And so I made this, it's a great color for me underneath things. Again, it breaks up a black cardigan or something. And when I pulled it out last year, holy crap, loss.
Oh,
Okay, and it was a remnant, I don't know what it is, some wool from Fabric Mart, it was a remnant piece, and such. But luckily, because I do the needle felting, I especially save my little wool scraps. So I went and somewhere there's a moth hole. But I just needle felted rough cut circles over it. And you know what you have to do to take it from TJ Maxx to Nordstrom's? You have to do it on the back. That's TJ Maxx. That's Nordstrom's. So mending. So a needle felting by hand with a little patch of other fabric suddenly. And, you know, that's one of those things that especially young people are really conscious about, you know, remaking and reusing. So pass that around. I forgot to show you this earlier. This I had done years ago too. A lot of you have seen it. But this is Pamela's swing cardigan. And again, I just did self fabric and then just took, it looks like outside, it's so beautiful driving here. Just took the roving and randomly did, you know, rough leaf shapes on top. Again, on the back. And don't put it around your butt. Just because J. Jill has it, don't do it that way. Put it up here where your gorgeous face is. So I also brought this because, so I love green and I wear a lot of green this time of year and such. So there I am in TJ Maxx or Marshall's, one of them, and I see this and I'm like, oh my God, that's great. And I whip around and ready to wear has needle felted. And there I saw two other ones. And just did, and again, they probably used that mold, but just did that needle felting right on there in shapes. I saw one that was a solid color and had done snowflakes in white. So it was wintry. So suddenly you can take, you know, kids' book and outline and just needle felt within that. I'm going to show you when I brought this to demo, let everybody test it, do a test drive, but you can pull those, you're not sewing it. Like Rebecca said, oh my God, am I sewing the leather? No, you can pull those yarns and fibers back off again. So if, you know, if you do want precision, you can make it and then pull off something that isn't. Tweezers are good for that. So the last thing I want to show you, for show and tell, I saw in Vogue Pattern Magazine. I've had it on my bulletin board, and of course, when I moved, I put it away, but it has haunted me. There was a black ready-to-wear cardigan, and somebody had done exactly this project where, so I had been buying this fabric. So this is rayon flowers cut out and then done with the roving layered underneath and on top. I am in love with this. Here's my sample. I just took black wool jersey and cut out shapes. I had been looking for several years for, when you look at floral fabrics, those of you who are quilters know this. Sometimes you have a distinct flower, and sometimes they're all blended together. So on polas, they run into one another. On Rebecca's, there are some separate flowers that you can cut out. But when you want it to be a thin fabric, it's like, oh my gosh, that was hard to find. So I started collecting. So here's the fabric I found. And I wanted this for my Halloween sweater. I no longer wear sweaters with little witches on it or pumpkins across my crotch. You know, I've done that. I've been there. I've done that. But I was like, okay, I wanted something to wear for Halloween. I wanted it in autumn colors. I have this fabric. I would not wear this in a blouse. It's just too much contrast for me. But what I loved is it had those distinct flower shapes. And so I could cut those shapes out and go ahead and put them on. And I'm looking for a bag. This, yes, thank you, Jill, with the shape. So I just took the shapes out, pinned them, put the sweater on my dress form, and then started pinning. And again, I didn't, the cardigan in the Vogue Pattern Magazine had a panel, kind of like the cardigan I'm wearing today. They just had to go equal on either side and around the back. I didn't want that. I like the asymmetry, the odd, again, that looks more designer. That looks more intentional to me, not just, oh, they made it, you know, easy to assemble in a factory. You know, you have to have a left and a right and all. So it's fun as can be. I tested it on that and said, I'm happy, let's go ahead. So it's just a ready to wear, inexpensive sweater that suddenly, and so the potential for this is just dramatic. So there's my fabrics, blended things together. So now I look and I say, oh my heavens, let's start playing. So I'm extremely active in a neighborhood Facebook group called Buy Nothing. Does anybody?
Yes, yes.
Oh my
yes,
God.
yes, yes,
I'm
yes.
a junkie.
Yeah.
And the good news is, like 99% of the time, I'm giving it away.
Yeah.
Somebody came yesterday for 4 unused dog toys. I was looking at Bingley's bin of toys. I'm like, you don't play with these. So I had 4 toys. I said, anybody want these? I thought one person might want. 8 people in my neighborhood group said, oh yeah, somebody with 3 dogs picked up some toys in a Rubbermaid box on my front porch.
Yeah.
Happy. So even Bingley is clearing out extra stuff. So I did ask for something like 2 weeks ago. And I said, hey, it's fall. I know you're making a closet change maybe. Does anybody have I wanted a thin sweater, merino cashmere that has moth holes that you'd be willing to give me. So 2 people. So one young person, I felt so bad when I picked this up. One young person, lovely, nice cashmere sweater, and such. And she had tried to mend it, but she had no clue she was doing.
Oh.
It's like, oh, I felt so bad. But what you could obviously do, this is somebody's sweater, so you don't have that fabric in your stash like I did for the tank top. But 2 things you can do. You could apply some fat. You could apply just some roving and do contrast and create designs around here. You could, and they're really in this year, is vests. You could cut those sleeves off, turn that and hem that and use this fabric, and then start creating some more elaborate 3D embellishments with this leftover fabric, because now you've got a lot to play with. One of the sources I put on here for you is a 3D. Trying to think who had, Evie Hawkins had the 3D flowers, and it's just layering, because when you cut and layer different widths, it pulls them up. For the embellishment makes it pucker and pull it up. So I got one sweater, and look what I had. Oh my God, these 2 fabrics have me so excited. Look at that. Oh my heavens. So I have enough of this. I can do a blouse. I could do a vest with, an embellishment. The other thing I like is I do have a lot of patterns that have that turn back collar. I love that look. I happen to like that look a lot, but not every fabric, the bottom side is as attractive. It's sometimes annoying. A lot of times in a double knit, that would have been a solid black. And I'm like, the solid black, I don't want that at the collar. Well, that's the perfect place then to go find some roving or yarn and embellish some color that is good for you to break that black up. So that really appeals to me, is doing the other side of it when it's exposed. And this is the kind of fabric that I would love to do that, to take a black cardigan, do that, make it a fall, bring that brown tone in so I can wear browns with it, not just blacks with it.
What type of fabric is that?
Again, this is a wonderful rayon crepe. This is fabric yarn I know, but they never have this. This stuff is, this is what I went to Europe to look for. We went to England. Steve's like, what are you looking for? Because what do you need? And I said, I'm actually looking for rayon wovens. Because unless I'm going to pay what Linda Lee pricing, there's just not that much, and her stuff sells out immediately. I mean, when she gets something nice, and a lot of those are just too bold for me. I need more choice and more tone on tone. So my girlfriend gave me, when she saw my, and look at this remnant. Already kind of impressionist. But oh my gosh. I love the idea of taking some of these flowers, imagine them needle punched onto a boucle, onto a tweed. Suddenly you bring it up to designer fabric from, that's a nice tweed jacket. But you really can customize and you can do your placement wherever you want it. You don't have to worry that that flower is right in the wrong place.
Let me make sure I understand. If you were to cut one of those flowers out and put it on a sweater,
I'm
you
gonna
would
have you
still
do it.
have to have some roving on it, or the needle punching will meld that fabric.
No, you don't have to. So you can just cut that out. So I'm going to pass this around. So I just cut one of those flowers out, and I said, let's see what happens without roving. I'm just curious. What I discovered is the edges, because it is a woven, the edges are very rough. And they do have a slight tendency to want to roll, I mean, you really have to needle felt heavily. I'm gonna pass this around. So you can do it. You could just do this onto a piece of, this is that same black knit. I didn't like it as much. To me, the roving
Softens it.
finished it somehow. It gave it an intention that this doesn't have. What I was thinking about doing, so once I saw the failure of the polar fleece, I still wear a polar fleece 90% of the time. And I wear, and again, I'm going to start soon. I wear a polar fleece headband from middle of November until April because I'm cold. And I said, oh, you know what? I'll make some like pinnable something again to make it look other than just REI. I put, so I'm trying to up it a little bit. And I thought I'll do some of these and then just tack them on. And I didn't like this. I didn't like it enough. I was like, it's too plain. It's ordinary. So I would do it with roving because I think it needs to bring it out. And every flower might be different. There might be, different ones. So we pass that. Hey. Oh, so this is, so then I started playing with my stash. I'm like, oh my God, look at, wouldn't that be gorgeous? With that, wouldn't it be nice to do a cardigan and then do a solid tank underneath with just your trim being coordinated? So you've got your bias binding coordinated. My head starts spinning. There aren't enough hours in my day.
Is that all you do?
No, I hardly ever. See him? How many hours a day does a new dog take up in your life? New dog people,
This is probably over years. But yeah.
So I'm gonna show you how these attach, and then let you all anybody who wants to try. And I also brought any roving that you want. Please take some. I have so much. I have so much. Oh my heavens. So this one, I was somebody who got into nature dyeing. So these are, they'll say on here, organic. This is somebody did onion skins, and I forget what this one is. Logwood dye. So once you go to that Sheep and Wool Festival, it's a downhill slope. I do knit? No. I just buy stuff. But I wrote. So I will say that I've gotten more use out of this than many other purchases. My Fimo clay button making was a lot less successful.
Yeah, I tried that too. We're just alike.
Exactly. With the pounds of Fimo clay that I would go, so this I've been much more successful with.
Now, Jane, is that a roving machine or did you just put a head on it?
This is a embellishing machine.
It is a specialty machine.
Yeah, this is a Baby Lock 12 needle.
Yeah.
I think Simplicity has a 12 needle. I'm not even sure you can buy these in retail. It kind of comes and goes as a fad. Some machines I saw let you change out. I wouldn't change my machine out. I don't like any idea. This is a barbed needle going down in there. And maybe, I don't care if you take the bobbin case out, it would just make me too nervous about a ridiculously expensive machine.
Oh, yeah.
The idea
I
of
just couldn't
dinging
see.
it. Does it make a lot of dust?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, makes a lot of.
Not a lot, actually. I'm going to show, as a matter of fact, it's funny you say that.
Save that.
No more machine.
Save that bug.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Then you
I
can use
have
that.
not cleaned this out. I don't know what we're going to see in here. This will be a surprise. The big reveal.
Nope, we lost.
Lost it.
You're
That
still
was
on Zoom with
convenient.
that.
You just need
That's
to
all we
select
have.
it.
Yeah,
On the
just
bottom.
do click.
No big whoop.
Oh, maybe because it went over.
No big whoop.
No, that's not too bad.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
And that's the coat. That's everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's got, doesn't make.
Click on
No one put that
Yeah,
on.
where you put that
I
bottom?
did.
touching it. I would break it, sorry.
Okay, let's have you test drive. Anybody want to come up and try this?
Oh, I have one.
But I wanna see.
I don't mind, mine is signed by Nancy. Zimmerman,
No, I'm
so I'll
not
never
gonna
give it
try. I just
away.
want to see
Okay.
when
Yeah,
somebody's
I'm gonna
doing
try
it.
it.
When it was
How do I
back,
get the
and then
mouse?
this was-
Oh.
God, mine, I bought mine at least 20
You
years
were trying to do
ago.
it the hard
And,
way.
I was.
I think it's the simplicity one.
Sorry.
She was selling them through her shop, and she was at a show in Denver,
How do
and
I
she signed it.
Is that?
Oh, signed the ones
Oh,
that you
there's
bought there.
I do
I'm,
know
I'm
that.
totally.
I've
Yeah,
got
but
a
now
lot
it's
of
on,
by the way, I'm
so-
just keeping him from roving around so much.
Click on not now. for the
Say not
browser.
now.
So I have a
Yeah.
story to tell about
And
the
then go
embellisher. So my friend, our apartment got one.
There you go.
There we go.
There you go.
And so
Oh.
she invited
Why'd
me
it
over.
go
She
away?
just
Here,
got it.
don't touch it.
And she had played with it. And she
You
goes,
got it.
"Oh,
You
look
got
at you play with it." And it had 5 needles, and in the first 30 seconds, I broke 3
Click
of
where your
them.
mouse is right now.
And that was back when you had to buy a
Left.
whole thing.
Yeah, you had to buy the
Left
whole
click.
Just get a needle. I felt so awful.
Yeah.
Left button, click right where the. mouse
Right
is
here?
now. Yes, right there. There you go. Now
Okay,
it's
now it'll
there.
stay.
So I use, somebody at the Super Bowl Festival, I use a dog brush. When I want to blend colors. So, to just pull it through. There are all kinds of fancy
You hang here with
things
us. You don't
for
need to wander.
knitters and such. But if you wanted to start blending colors, I just pull it through.
Good pup.
Oh.
A good pup.
So if that was too orange, putting a little peach in takes it down, it softens it a little bit.
How many times do you have to put-
As many as you want to make it blend.
So it looks the way you like it.
There, again, I'm sure there's engineers that can answer that. Jane just said, do I like that color or not? And if I don't, I can just layer something on top of it, so. All right.
You ever do dog hair?
Actually, it's so funny you say that. I brush him every 3 days and he just sheds like the dickens. And I thought, I am gonna do something. I am gonna embellish something with his hair and, I mean, I just can't resist.
I just
The
imagine every
natural
time you get
fiber.
wet, you
The
smell like wet
natural
dog.
fiber. Yes. Thank you.
There's a lady that does needle felting. I see her on TikTok and she does 3D either portraits in a frame and it's the face and chest of your pet. She
Yes,
does come in, or she will actually felt the animal stand alone.
right.
And it's just amazing. And she's doing, it's all needle felting. And she makes these exact replicas
Right,
of
you can
these
send
pictures
to
of these
have your
animals.
memorial, your,
Yeah.
well, I was gonna, with our other dog, Lucky, I was like, I'm gonna have somebody in Ireland memorialize.
And, I mean, it's so fascinating to watch her do it. Of course, it's all sped up, but I mean, she's just adding in these bits of probing and the needle felting it in, and all of a sudden it's the perfect eyebrow line. And just amazing.
So I'm gonna start this and let you finish, just to show you how easy it is. I don't wanna make you panic. Oh my God. So one thing that will happen is, the fibers will gather together and they'll get a little darker and such, but, so it has a lift. And so I just wanna make sure my needles are up. There's nothing underneath. It's just hollow underneath there. And the needles are barred. So they're going down, they're pushing the fibers down, and then they're pulling it up with a barb. So that's what makes it mesh together with your fabric. So I'm just gonna push it under there, put my foot down, turn my power on, so I have a little light.
And then off you go.
There is a big guard, but just, try not to get.
Yeah, you don't want your fingers in there. I mean, if you think it's bad with the sewing machine needle, these are like 50
This would
times
hurt.
worse.
This would hurt, exactly.
I have accidentally poked myself, never actually,
Yeah.
with really, but I'm just like, oh my
But you can
goodness.
see how that my rayon fabric is moving, so it does pull like things. But you can go any way. Those of you
It's
who
basically
free motion
promotion,
too,
yeah.
I don't do that, but look at that, you can go anywhere. There's no bobbin, there's no feed dogs doing anything. And what happened, so you see how that cut, like that happened on my sweater over and over. So I went, oh, what I really should do is probably push that way. In other words, not go around it, but kind of push the bubble. It just, if I didn't, it just would have a little crease in it. It's nothing serious, but. Like free motion, what's the benefit? If you go fast with your foot and slow with your fabric, then you're really doing it. I'm gonna push some of that over here, and let me sit and try it.
Bring the needle.
Barb Harton left me when she left.
Her needle felting machine?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
Have you used it?
Of course, I went through that with her. No, I gave it to Joyce Jones to take to her senior crafty thing in her center. Because one of the women
And it'll push it.
Oh,
And
okay.
interest.
So it went somewhere that
Well,
somebody
that's
used it.
good. Yeah.
Well, except the last time I checked with her, she said the woman never came to pick it.
Oh, geez.
And then put fibers on.
Maybe it's still
and
with
put it back
Joyce.
down again. That's just safer for your
It's
fingers.
probably in Joyce's basement that she's never put together.
If anybody's interested.
I know, I mean, when I wore my sweater to the dealer,
I tried to do
one.
So
there, everybody said, oh, I have one of those, I haven't taken it. Yeah.
Mark's was a baby block.
Oh, it's not moving? Okay. Okay, so something, oh, this is just yarn. and now they're live. You have to move it.
Yeah, the boots.
There's no
have-
feet
yeah,
on.
no
You
boots
have to.
Push, pull, swirl. whatever
Yeah,
it
that's
is.
it, that's it.
So is this, what is this, seed stitch?
Yeah, with 3 or 4 different ones.
People sell theirs on eBay. This is one of eBay. Frequently.
Put another yarn.
I don't use mine all the time, but I pull it out every now and then to do a project, you know.
I know.
I gave it to her.
I mean, it's an extra.
room. That's all I can say.
Exactly, that's all it's doing is like pushing that down. And so.
Very
this-
good crochet or
I'm probably better at crochet
I
than I
can't
am
crochet.
knit. I'm better at crochet.
On top of that.
I mean, I can knit. Anyway, so y'all, I brought this flower.
Yeah, look at me.
That I
flower.
was gifted, and it's needle punch. And I just think it's so cool.
Oh, gorgeous.
Yeah, isn't that pretty? Yes, I'll pass it around.
Again, you can see where they did the roving in the center, so
So
it's
I guess
got,
that's a wool felt, maybe, I'm not quite sure.
they needle felted that.
Do you think that even the flowers needle felted?
I mean, oh, yeah.
Cut it off.
That's what they made the
They
fabric.
made the fabric, they
Wow.
took roving.
Stick it in there
and
somewhere.
placed that, and I think they wet felted it. I don't think.
Oh,
it was
yeah,
needle.
yeah, yeah.
They
that
wet
makes
felted
sense.
it.
Yeah, okay.
They probably wet felted a whole bunch of fabric.
And then cut the
Oh, I
flowers.
have
cut and
one
laid
for this.
form
You
on
have
it.
to have a crochet hook.
Yeah.
It's just a-
Anybody else? Anybody else want to give it a try?
Anybody want to give it a
Oh,
try?
yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
John,
they
test
do.
drive?
Put that in
Come
back
test
there
drive.
somewhere in there.
Do I have one? I did, I sold it. because I never used it. I finally- I did have one, I had a Viking, I had a Viking, but I just sold it because I just never used it.
Here we go, here we go. You know what, let me give you the first one.
Yeah, I've never known anybody that used it. All right, so I have to show you what I ordered. Jane, wait till you see this. So it's Sita, he's making her head.
Oh, my God.
And look at that.
What are you gonna
It's
put the
needle
head on?
felted. Oh, no, it'll be a doll like this.
Yep, you can do it on top.
I
and
turned
bottom.
it great.
Like it on top.
Like this.
Because-
Is that a strip? But the whole head is needle felted. Yes.
It's not something that's
Pulling up those-
It's kind of creepy,
I
honestly.
know, so it's a doll.
I wouldn't
It's a
put
doll.
Maggie's head on that.
Oh, you wouldn't want to.
No, I wouldn't want to see it
Yeah.
after she was gone.
Oh, well.
That's pretty
That would
cool.
be a little weird.
See, that was when he started on it. And then he's gotten a lot more detailed.
So where was he at, on Etsy?
No, I follow him on YouTube. Well, Instagram too, but on YouTube. And then he makes these dolls. And I just thought it was so cute. So that's what it'll look like. But Sid is, that's his doll.
Absolutely everything.
So it's very
Well,
impressive.
yeah, but I'm not making it, see, but I.
No, but you're making the doll, right?
No, he'll do it all.
Oh, he's doing the
Oh,
doll
yeah.
too?
Oh, yeah, he said like, what do you want her to be dressed in? Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought he was just making the head for you. to do.
No, the whole doll. Yeah. It really looks like her.
Yeah, that's a little creepy.
Yeah, I don't think it's creepy at all. So here's my test.
That was my daughter.
All right. Oh, you have been working on it. No, this was my test sweater.
Oh,
This is the
oh.
one I did last year. Okay. So, what I don't want, well, first of all, I bound it off too tight. I really struggle with that. I really try.
You're just a tight.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really tight.
No, it's your bag. But it's, the bag doesn't have these side pockets.
Yeah, you're
And
supposed to
then
have it just
in the back,
Yeah.
show off that there's a back pocket.
Okay, and
So, well, it's a great bag.
so I saw
But I
another
had,
one of hers instead of the.
Two more layers of vinyl there, two more layers of vinyl there, so I have like.
So there's no reason you couldn't convert that, right? That's what I figured.
You were gonna go right.
Yes. It's
about-
well, not this one. So on the bottom, I ended up.
Oh, I thought you were putting it together with me.
Well, then I thought about it.
Right side fits in together.
Yeah. But maybe on the bottom. It's the same kind of stuff. No, no. But it's,
I thought we were gonna do like a demonstration.
it's this tube where you hold two threads together. Yeah. Well, it's a graduated, so you knit in a color and then you knit in a color. It's
And
really.
you change them out.
Uh-huh.
That's what this is. You
Yeah.
change them out.
Yeah.
You knit a couple rows and then change one of them. You knit a couple, you notice how I changed just one of them, then I changed another one.
This one is more graduated. I'll send you a picture of it. I think I don't have
Is
it.
the yarn graduated or you do it?
You do it.
That's how they do that. They change out one row. One color.
Not in this one, like it's all blue and then it's all yellow.
Oh, it's
and then-
blocked.
Yeah, it's blocked, yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
probably.
Yes, yes.
So it's not blended.
No, so if I did.
Where's the top?
I know. Well, and it's a little too big, so I think I'll go down one size. Because the neck is kind of big. too. So if I wanted. what I
Okay,
guess
ladies.
on-
I think Jane has concluded her presentation for the moment. I'm going to, can I turn off the record feature now? We don't need to record the whole meeting.
Yeah.
All right.
I think you're amazing. I just think you're amazing.
Oh, here, yeah.